Ready? Preparing to stream. Okay, I think we are on. Okay, wonderful. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Healthy Joints Healthy Lifestyle Show. And today I have a phenomenal guest for you. Her name is Dr. Catherine Toomer. She is a phenomenal physician, and I just wait till I tell you about her. So today we are really going to talk about healthy eating and how to stay healthy during the holiday season. And I just confessed to Dr. Toomer that I want to know because I'm scared. I'm scared that all my good work in the last few months may turn to naught. So Dr. Catherine Toomer is a physician entrepreneur. She's certified hypnotherapist, an NLP practitioner. She's going to tell us what that means. She developed her very highly successful total wellness and weight loss program based on biosocial system that she used to lose over 100 pounds. She reversed her insulin-dependent diabetes, and she survived postpartum cardiomyopathy and depression. She does not look one bit like everything that she has been through. She's going to tell us how to do it and how to be healthy during this holiday season. So Dr. Catherine Toomer, I know I did not even do you justice in that introduction, so I'm going to hand it over to you. Welcome to the show.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So yes, I am Dr. Catherine Toomer, and I am a family medicine community health physician. And I am the founder of Total Weight Care Institute, and what is a relatively new institute that I created because I teach patients how to maximize their health and wellness through weight loss. And I teach clinicians how to create successful weight health businesses and practices using a very complete and compassionate method, which is what my program is. And my program was developed for myself. As you know, Dr. Dada mentioned, I have lost 107 pounds, and that process started about 23 years ago when I had slowly gained weight from stress mainly. And when that stress weight gain met my genetics, I became an insulin-dependent diabetic. And so, and then I had already had some low-level chronic depression, but then had a baby, had two babies in 3 years, actually. And then a month after my daughter was born, I went into congestive heart failure. And I knew I needed help, but I couldn't get anyone to help me because no one would touch me because of my heart.
Yeah.
I was already controlled as a diabetic on medication, so no one was going to touch that.
Yeah.
And so, but I knew I only had a 50% chance of living 5 years. That was my prognosis. And I had
Wow.
a toddler, and I knew if I didn't do something, if something didn't change, I wouldn't survive to see them growing up. But my motivation was in the toilet. I just could not get motivated, even though I had full help because I couldn't do anything on my own. So I had help, but I wasn't motivated to do my part. And that's when I realized my depression was getting in the way. Postpartum depression, cardiac depression was very difficult. And so the first thing I did was treat my depression.
Yeah.
And then from there, I was able to do the other things, and I was able to get involved and do what was necessary in order to get well. And eventually, in about 6 months, I lost 60 pounds, was off insulin, but in the process, wrote everything down. I just kept track of everything I did. And later tried to use that program to help my patients when I went back into practice, but I couldn't because I didn't have the time and I didn't have the support. And so, but I knew a biopsychosocial approach worked. I knew that if you focus on the biology, the psychology, and the sociology, there's nothing that can't be done. And
Tell
so,
us, tell us a little bit about this biopsych. I know you're going to, but I'll just put it out there. Tell us when you're ready about this biopsychosocial approach. But I'll leave it there for you to tell us when you're ready.
Well, what a biopsychosocial approach is that whatever you do, whatever happens, whatever a human does or doesn't do, there is a biological reason, a psychological reason, and a social reason that impacts what's happening. And unless you address all of those things when trying to create a transformation or an improvement or a change, then nothing is really all that effective. it's not 100% effective. And so when trying to get from point A to point B or trying to improve in any way, it's really important to make sure that it's healthy physiologically, that it is psychologically sound, and that it doesn't affect your social life, your family life, your work life, your friendships. And so as long as all of those things are addressed and all of those things work together, then it's much easier to make that change and make that transformation. And so so when evaluating anyone for any process that they want, any assistance that they want, I look at all of those components just to make sure that they get support on all those levels.
Makes sense. Yeah. And that sounds like that's the kind of thing that will make things sustainable, right?
Yes. Whatever you do now, you have to be able to do when you're 90. So it can't be too expensive. Otherwise, whatever falls off, whatever progress you made from that thing that you can't sustain, then all of that progress goes away. And so it's really important to be able to do everything to a certain degree throughout your life.
Longevity. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because that's those crazy diets that you do, right? Do a 3-day fast.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I interrupted you because you were you were kind of telling us kind of the story of just how you became the Catherine Toomer, right? And kind of dealing with the mindset first is what you sounded like. You were kind of you dealt with the mindset first, and you were saying how you had help at that time, but still had to kind of work on the mindset first.
Yes. And so when I finally opened my own practice after being frustrated working in community health centers, where my passion is, I'm a community health physician. So my passion is working with people who are underserved and underinsured or not insured. And so, but it was just too difficult, especially since I know I reversed my own diabetes and I knew that I could help people do that, but I wasn't, it's like I was in a system where it was an ill care system. I wasn't helping people with their health. I was only helping them with their illnesses. And so I opened my own micro practice. I kept it small so the overhead would be low, so I could take care of patients an hour at a time if I wanted to. And but then COVID hit and I closed and went virtual. But one of the beautiful things about going virtual is I realized I could help so many more people.
Anywhere they are, right?
Exactly. And so I meet people where they are medically, and I meet people where they are physically. So wherever they are, I help them.
Yes, that's amazing. So we wanted to talk a little bit because I have that burning question. How am I going to prevent overindulgence? How am I gonna prevent what we know is coming, which is all caution to the wind till January 1st when I start making all those resolutions. How do we work? How do we prevent it? How do we be proactive about the largesse that we know that's coming, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the whole merriment? What do we do to protect our bodies and keep ourselves healthy nutritionally during that time?
Well, first of all, plan.
Yeah.
Just know that to know yourself and know yourself well, know what your pitfalls are, know what your triggers are, whether it's emotional triggers, whether they're food triggers, whether there are, weather triggers, whatever it is that is a trigger, plan for that and plan for what you're going to do in the face of that. And so that's number one. Number two, don't go hungry. When you get hungry, you tend to make bad choices. So make sure that you eat continuously throughout the day. Make sure that, you're not hungry going into a situation where you already know that it's going to be difficult. And and the best way to do that is focusing on protein. Because the way our body works, our body makes fat out of glucose, the breakdown of carbohydrates. And so managing carbohydrates is the way that we prevent fat production. And the way we manage carbohydrates is by focusing on protein, by pairing all carbohydrates with protein. It's not saying you have to avoid them, not these ketogenic diets or anything that aren't sustainable, but it's simply saying every time you eat something, make sure there's a protein in it. And so when you're going into a situation where you're going to have to or going to want to make good choices, then make sure that you have shored up on protein before going into that situation, whether it's a protein shake, whether it's a snack, whether it's something, but don't go in hungry.
Yeah.
And
So you
then
can think.
Mhm.
So you can think. So you can
Yes,
think. So yeah. So you're
yes,
not driven by emotional eating. You can think
exactly.
things through and
Well,
decide.
we're going to be driven by emotional eating regardless because we're social eaters. I mean,
Yeah.
everything we do around food, and there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with being
Yeah.
an emotional eater. You
Yeah.
know, we emotionally eat on our birthdays because that's what our birthday cakes
Yeah.
are. You know,
Yeah.
Christmas cookies are for. You know, but but the point is to enjoy what you want in a way so that it doesn't derail you in any way. So that instead of, as people say, falling off the wagon, you just kind of jump over to the next one until you can get back on the one you are on your way to.
Okay. 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 So enjoy what you want.
Enjoy what
Emotional
you want, but in a way so that
balance.
it doesn't derail you and it doesn't
Yeah.
cause you illness. Because really,
Mhm.
the biggest issue is, like I said, carbohydrates, particularly this time of year, sugar.
Yeah.
And sugar causes inflammation. So if you're someone who's prone to chronic pain, as you would know, because of joint pain
Yeah.
and different types of arthritis,
Yeah.
sugar is going to make that worse. And so you want to keep your blood sugars regulated. And the way to do that is by actually using protein as part of your medication. The other
Yeah.
thing you could do is use your muscle for that too,
Mm.
if you're able.
Yeah.
If you're able to maintain it. But the main thing is to try to do things in moderation and to
Yeah.
plan ahead of time
Yeah.
so that when you're in a situation, you already know I'm going to focus on protein. So
Yeah.
what I do is when I go to a party and there's food, I look
Yeah.
at everything that's available first.
Yeah.
I look to see which desserts I want because I do like my desserts. And if I know there's something there I want, I go to the protein and use the protein to offset
The
whatever else
balance.
it is
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want.
Yeah. So I'll say, so trying to figure out what to do. So I'm just thinking Thanksgiving. I'm gonna be with my family,
Yeah.
and I'm probably not gonna eat breakfast because I'm gonna be like, there's gonna be so much food. That's
Don't do
probably
that.
not that's not what you're saying. No, you're
No.
saying have protein. So what do you advise, right? Because I can see that spread. My sister-in-law's been working for days, and I'm gonna arrive. So I mean, I can see the spread. And I'm just thinking, I don't want her to say, oh well, I don't want her thinking, oh, I mean, Ola doesn't like her food, et cetera, et
Yeah,
cetera. So
exactly.
tell me what I would do in that situation. When you say
Okay.
eat protein, should I eat some eggs for breakfast? What is the nitty-gritty of that?
Okay. So one of the things you don't want to do is when people cook out of love for you, you want to enjoy that food and you want
Yeah,
to, if that's their love language, you want to speak
yeah,
to them in their love language. And
yeah,
so what you do though is, but you'd also want to love yourself. You don't want to do anything that's going to harm yourself. So what you do is you eat some protein like an egg, maybe not a full blown breakfast that
yeah,
day, at least have some protein, have some
yeah,
coffee or whatever it is, an egg
yeah,
or maybe a piece of egg and a piece of breakfast meat.
yeah,
Then for lunch, if you're depending on the time of day that the meal is, if there's
yeah,
at least 4 hours before, you want to make sure that you have some more, maybe some, lunch meat and some cheese
yeah,
or crackers or something, but something that's going to help you.
yeah,
That's now to keep you from getting really, really hungry. The
yeah,
other option is also drinking a protein shake about 30 minutes before the meal is served.
yeah.
Another option is taking your appetizers with you that are high protein, like nuts, things that have nuts in them, or things that have nut butter, or something that you can snack on if you're there and you're hungry,
Okay.
like vegetables dipped in, ranch dressing or sour cream based something. Things that have
Okay.
fat and protein in them and not much carbs.
Okay.
And so that helps there. And then what you do is you start low and go slow. So what I do is you take a little bit of the protein, a little bit of the vegetables, and you prime your body getting ready for that. Eat a little plate of that, and then you go back for seconds. That does two.
Mm-hmm.
It makes people see you going back for seconds, and so they
Mm-hmm.
appreciate it because they feel you like their food.
Yeah.
But you're not doing it in a way so that it's harming your blood sugars and it's harming your body, but you get everything. So the second plate, though, is where you get all the goodies. The
Yeah.
mac and cheese, the stuffing, then all the rest.
Yeah.
But you make sure you include that protein still in there. And so if you have a plate and you
Yeah.
make half of that plate protein and vegetables, you can fill the other half of that plate with all the rest. And it will and they will offset one another.
Okay.
But that
So
also includes desserts.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you're going to, if you want to have dessert, which we all do,
Yes. Yeah.
I'm from Michigan. I love my pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
And so what you can do is whenever you have something that has sugar in it, try to offset it as much as you can with extra fat, extra protein. So whipped cream, heavy, heavy fatty ice cream.
Okay.
That's not, I mean, of course they're going to have some sugar in that, but
Yes.
and then you also take in consideration. So if I know I want to have a slice of pie and a slice of cake, a slice of, something else, I take a little bit of each one, and then I take a little less of all of the others that are in the meal.
Yeah. Okay. So it seems like the bottom line is planning, right? Planning, I had that example of, hey, my sister-in-law is gonna think, hey, I don't like her food, and you're like, go for seconds.
Yeah.
Plan for the first plate. The first plate should be kind of more a logical thing, and it kind of primes your stomach, your abdomen, right? And primes like, okay, there's food here. We're not starving. Take it easy. We're going to go slow and start low and go slow and do some proteins and vegetables and fill up half the plate with that. And then if you know the second
plate should be only just a small little bit of vegetables, whatever, and eat that. And then when you go for your second plate, half of it should be vegetables.
Half of it. Okay. Perfect.
At least half.
At least half of the plate. Okay. Because I've drawn everything because this is my Thanksgiving plan. So I've written down everything. Yeah. On this is what we're going to do here. So we're going to plan it. We're going to have a little bit for breakfast. Depending on when lunch is, we'll have that. So good. Okay. So this has been helpful specifically for me and people like me out there kind of figuring out, happy or dreading Thanksgiving. But
there's one more thing though. There's one more thing to pay attention to. Yeah. What you drink. No, whatever you drink should not have sugar in it. That will undo everything else.
What are you drinking?
Yeah. So, even if you're worried that there won't be something that's sugar-free there, then you bring it with you.
Bring your own.
Yeah, most people don't care if you don't drink their drinks unless they make a fancy punch, and then they're like, so take a couple sips if you want, but for the most part, stay away from the sugary drinks.
Yeah, bring your own drink if you bring your own low sugar drink. Okay, that's smart, right? Because nobody cares whether you drink their drink. Usually came from the store, right? Okay, that's really helpful. Dr. Toomer, can you give us an example of a patient or a patient client that has really undergone kind of using your methods, right? That has really undergone a significant, like that was a win for that patient. Because I think sometimes as patients, we kind of see, we have to kind of see somebody similar to us who's kind of, had that experience. And then I think that sometimes speaks to our patients more.
Well, I mean, I'm a perfect example. I've lost 107 pounds and have, I'm living beyond what I was told I would. I'm 58 years old. I was diagnosed at 36 years old with congestive heart failure. And so, I'm very fortunate in that regard. But I also have patients where I think I actually have them somewhere on my YouTube channel where I have a patient who said, it's wonderful being able to wake up each morning not in pain. Because I get up and go. And it used to be, I think in her testimonial, she says that she used to hurt all the time. And every time she stood up, she would hurt. And then with my help and with her, she, of course, it's her process. She said she just had she could just stand up and move. And all of a sudden she realized that was happening and it just surprised her. And it doesn't take a lot of weight loss for that to happen. It really even just 5% of your body weight is enough to make that much of a transition. I have another patient who lost a pretty significant amount of weight, whose hemoglobin A1C, which is what we test for diabetes, was very high. Yeah. And by the time once I was done working with him, he was done, not with himself. He's still ongoing. His hemoglobin A1C was well into normal range. Yeah. And it was never going to happen.
And so for our our viewers who don't know what a hemoglobin A1C is, because if you don't have diabetes, you probably don't know. Dr. Toomer, can you tell us what a hemoglobin A1C is so
A
that they
hemoglobin
understand what that
A1C,
is?
it's a blood test that we
Yeah.
use to measure where someone's blood sugars have been on average for 3 months. And
Yes.
so, because what happens when our blood sugar goes up, our blood sugar actually attaches to our red blood cells, which are everywhere in the blood. And so we can measure that based on just testing to see how much sugar is on your red blood cells. And it tells us about what your blood sugars have been for 3 months.
3
The
months.
problem with that test, though, it's an average. So it doesn't tell you how high it goes. It doesn't tell you how low. And if you're anemic, it is falsely low. So it's just one test to kind of give us an idea.
So it gives us an average of what your blood sugars have done 3 months before the test. And so for people with diabetes, is a great way for us to try to at least screen them out. So what I'm hearing, so one of the things that you said is that sometimes it doesn't take a lot of weight loss to feel the difference. And so in my world, in joint pain, every time you walk, it's 5 times the amount of weight that your knees see. So if you lose 5%, that is a huge relief on your joints. So even in my world, this part of what Dr. Toomer is saying is that you will feel better. Like even when people haven't noticed the weight loss, you will start to feel better first, right?
Yes. And the weight is a symptom. Weight is not something that happens on its own. There is a biological, psychological, or social reason that weight shows up. And that's why it's so important to figure out the cause of weight gain, because that's really what you're going after, not the weight itself. Weight loss is just secondary to fixing whatever the problem is. And so, so when that, which is why, diets don't work really all that well, because most of us who've ever had obesity can tell you we didn't overeat. It wasn't from overeating. I didn't eat too much. In fact, I eat more now that I'm 100 pounds lighter than I did then. And the reason is because I eat differently. And I don't even eat more healthily. I eat the same exact food. I just eat it in a different order. And I'm more cognizant of my carbohydrates. But most of us who gain weight very easily and have difficulty losing weight, it's because of the way our body processes carbohydrates, which is why you can have 2 people who eat the exact same thing. One person will react differently than the other.
Yeah, spouses will tell you that all the time, just what Dr. Toomer is saying. Spouses will tell you that all the time. We did the exact same thing. He hasn't gained a pound and I've gained 30, So a lot of my female patients complain, if they go on a diet or they start kind of watching what they're eating, their husbands lose weight dramatically, different. I do comfort them that is to be expected. Right? Just our hormones, muscle mass, and all that. Wow. So this is actually very helpful, I think, Dr. Toomer, just before the holidays, to really give and specifically thank you on my behalf, just really kind of planning and thinking through the next few weeks with the holidays coming, how we manage and how we plan and how we start low and go slow, how we manage our protein, how we make sure we're very thoughtful and plan, make sure we don't go in there hungry. Doesn't mean we're not going to eat, doesn't mean we're not going to take seconds, but they're all going to be planned out. We will take our low sugar drink with us. Yes. So Dr. Toomer, how can people find you? How can they work with you? How can they find you? How can they get more of this information, please?
All right. I just want to say one last thing. When you eat something, enjoy it. If you're going to sit there being guilty and beating yourself up over eating something, then leave it alone. If you're going to put it on your plate, enjoy every single mouthful. Every single mouthful.
Love that.
Savor it. Well, the best way to work with me is to find me on my website, drtoomer.com, which is drtoomer.com. And you can send me a message, whether you're, if you're a patient who wants help, and I do free consultations so that, if I can't help you, I have a large a resource to go to help, to find someone else who can. And if you are a clinician, often what ends up happening is I get clinicians who come to me for help personally, and then they also want to then add what I do to their practice, which is wonderful
Yeah.
because there's room for all of us. There's so
Yeah.
many of us who need the help. And
Yeah.
so it's wonderful that there are others who want to do it.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, thank you, everybody. If you got any information from this video, please like it, share it. Follow us on our YouTube channel, Healthy Joints, Healthy Life with Dr. Dada. And thank you so much, Dr. Toomer, for coming on. Dr. Toomer is amazing. I mean, I had to mention two of her patients because she's had so many wins with her patients, and so I just wanted to have the opportunity and say thank you so much for coming to the show. And I think anyone that really wants to try to change their lives, improve their blood sugar levels, get that weight down, kind of using the biosocial physical means, talk to Dr. Toomer. She's phenomenal. She'll get you to where you want to be. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Dr. Toomer.
Bye. Thank you for having me.